Welcome, King. In this episode, we look at discovering your personal leadership. Let's dig in. Over the years, I've accumulated knowledge and understanding around personal leadership by studying great leaders, well known and not so well known. And I've tried to implement much of what I've learned, charting my own path along the way. Leadership it's really something special, and I've come to realize that every individual has been created to lead. Each of us has been created to lead and designed to dominate in an area of gifting or in an area of functioning. So leadership is not really about accumulating followers, but rather about attracting people through our commitment to transformation within our area of functioning, within our area of gifting. For me, this means that leadership really starts through a process of self-discovery. A discovery of our personal leadership area, our personal leadership potential. But I've seen that most people are so afraid of discovering and becoming themselves because who they really are looks nothing like what they've become in reality or what they've become in this world, what they see in the mirror. We spend our lives becoming something else, and then when we get a glimpse of who we really are, it's scary, and it seems too fantastical to be credible. My dad used to work at Volkswagen in South Africa, and amongst the many stories that he told us, there's one of particular interest to me. He told me about an area of the factory where they tested the engines. So they would have these rows of engines lined up, all connected to computers and to fuel source and power, everything that they needed. And they would start testing these engines, and the computers would present the data. So he told me that each engine spent at least 24 full hours being tested. They would slowly increase the revs, the RPM, until eventually the engines were being revved beyond even 10,000 RPM, well above what we see in the dial of the car. And when I asked him about what that looks like in terms of speed when you're actually driving on the road, he told me that it would equate to well over 200 kilometers per hour. He told me that the engines are tested beyond what the speedometer reads, and that the engine that's been tested to that degree is the very same engine that they put into the vehicle. So there's no such thing as a brand new engine or a brand new vehicle for that matter, because that vehicle, that engine, it's been tried and tested prior to getting into our hands, before we even buy it. So we have this car that can do well over 10,000 RPM, well over 200 kilometers an hour, but we drive on roads where the speed limit is 60, 80, or 100. So the state is out there limiting the ability of that vehicle to express itself fully. And the world that we live in is much like that. They tell us that there can be no leaders without followers, or if you have no one following you, that you're simply taking a walk, or that some people are made for it and others not. In my opinion, these are all lies. We are all born to lead, and our leadership comes from a place of self-discovery. So we are born to lead, but we must become leaders. There was a period of my life where I was well lost. I ended up on the streets juggling between getting high and getting girls, mainly because I had no idea of what I had inside of me, of who I was. And when I decided to turn towards myself, my journey of self-discovery began. And one of the most powerful tools that we have at our disposal that worked for me, that worked wonders for me, was the power of asking sincere questions. I believe that when we ask questions with a mind to actually find the answer, that those answers come to us. Ask and you will receive. Knock and the door will be open to you. So I ask myself questions like, what is important to you? What do you value? What do you believe about this and about that? How did you get to where you are? Where do you want to go? How do you get there? What do you want to be remembered for? What can you do right now to move in that direction? What can you do right now to get toward the answers? So these kinds of questions transformed my life when I actually started acting on the answers that I was receiving. And it was tough because I had to compete with all of these voices in my head. Some were my voice, and some were from people who had said things to me as I went through life. Over time, I started curating the information that fed me, which was another huge, huge help for me. So as I started getting answers, I would adjust my content feed toward people and channels that thought the same way. Right? Evil communications corrupt good manners. So I became super, super strict with curating what fed me. And then I just started living out my leadership potential within myself and then within the small circle around me. And my influence with people just grew and grew. And the people around me, they constantly growing as well. Right? Now I'm doing this thing on YouTube and this thing with the podcast. And I just know that it'll keep growing. But even if it doesn't, at least I can show up as a leader and offer value where I am. I remember where I came from, and I'm just so grateful. I could have been dead. I could have dead and buried with all of this potential inside of me, and I feel that I would have robbed everyone of what I had to offer, and now and in the future. So I'm really grateful for that. I also just want to say that I really believe in you. I'm rooting for you. I know that there's a great leader inside of you, that there is all this potential waiting to be unleashed, untapped. And it all starts with the journey of self-discovery. So take that leap and become who you really are. Until the next feast on this.